There's a press article titled from CNA titled WP Leadership Knew About Raeesah Khan's Untruth a week after her original speech in August, and that's ascribed to Mr. Pritam Singh. It goes on to say, and I quote from the article, Ms. Khan also repeated the untruth in Parliament in October, despite being asked to clarify the matter then, said Mr. Singh. Now, pausing there for a moment, can you remember the occasion at which you were asked to clarify the statement before the October sitting?
Before the October sitting, I had a conversation with leader of the opposition, Pritam Singh, and the conversation was that if I were to retain the narrative, or if I were to continue the narrative, there would be no judgment.
Can you tell us which date this took place?
3rd of October.
Where did this take place?
In my house.
Was there anyone else present besides the two of you?
No, there was not.
Are there any email or messages exchanged as a result of this?
No, there was not.
The discussion for you to retain the narrative and there will be no judgment. Can you give me your interpretation of that? What do you make of that statement?
My interpretation was that that there would be no consequences for me to continue the narrative that I had begun on the in August. After
In other
the
words,
speech.
there will be no consequences on you if you continue the lie and keep up the contention that there was this occasion, this anecdote that you had
Yes.
described on the 3rd of August, despite it being a lie.
That was my interpretation.
Yes.
Yes.
And there was therefore no attempt by Mr. Singh to ask you to clarify the matter in favor of putting out the truth.
Not at that point in time, no.
Not on the 3rd of October.
No.
Right. This news article goes further. There was, I think, a press statement made by Mr. Singh. And there followed, I think, some press questions. And I'd just like to draw your attention to a part of the report which is titled Taking Responsibility. Let me just read it to you verbatim. And I quote, when asked why the claim was allowed to remain uncorrected, and the claim here refers to the anecdote, Mr. Singh said, and I quote, each Workers' Party MP is a leader in his or her own right. And if you have done something wrong, it is your responsibility to set the record right. Adequately set the record right, yes, full stop. In response to questions over why Ms. Khan did not follow orders to clarify the matter in October, Mr. Singh added, and I quote, these are his words, why she didn't take heed of that instruction? Why did she ignore it? That's not a question I can answer. Can I invite you to comment on this in light of what you have just said earlier about the discussion you had on the 3rd of October?
I think regardless of the discussion that I had, I agree that it was my responsibility to come forth with the truth. And I take full responsibility of that. I think despite advice, I should have taken the step to rectify my mistake then.
This contention that there was an order for you to clarify the matter in October, can you give us your view on this?
I mean, I'm hearing this for the first time, so I...
Would you agree with the characterization that there was an order for you to clarify the matter in Parliament in October?
I do not agree with that characterization.
In fact, had there been such an order, we would have expected to see Mr. Singh stand up on the 4th of October or shortly thereafter and confront you, either directly or through messages, with a question as to why you didn't follow the order, correct?
I cannot assume what he would have done but that was not what
That
was
didn't
done.
happen.
Yes.
At any point in time, shortly after the 4th of October, did Mr. Singh come to you and say, why didn't you follow the order that we agreed on? Did he say that to you?
No.